Hey, what's up, new listeners and current listeners out there all around the world, including Canada, especially the USA, areas of Long Island, plus the five boroughs of Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, and Queens. This is your host with the most, G Money Stacks, aka Lonely Nomad, aka The Gregonator, aka Rookie Podcast of Queens, New York. And you are now tuning into and rocking with Off the Meatrack Chainz New York podcast, episode 46. Now, I do apologize for I do apologize for the sound yesterday. Now, I did not I had put myself on mute because I had heard something that dropped very heavy. I thought it was something scary, but anyway, if you are new to the channel and you miss any previous episodes whatsoever, don't worry, I got you. All you gotta do is subscribe to the YouTube channel, G Money Stacks 555. Be sure to enable alerts so you can be notified of when the show goes in the air live. Upcoming live stream episodes, previous episodes. Be sure to leave a like and a comment, and also be sure to be able to spread the word to your friends, and also share the podcast along with all your streaming platforms, which I will go over in a second at the end of the show. Now, if you give me 1 second, hold that thought. I'll be back. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Had to get my soundboard and drink ready since I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. But also, before we even get to the topics, I would like to actually say, if you would like to be a guest on the show, and you would like to, whether you are a actor, actress, rapper, singer, radio personality, podcast host, and like myself, a black-owned trendsetter who has a business and everything else, all you got to do, if I could find it, actually, hang on a second, guys. Hang on a second. Hang on just a sec. Now, if you would like to, if I could find the email in here, I just had it. Let me just say it. All right, so the email is off the Meatrack Chainz New York podcast. That's off the Meatrack Chainz New York podcast at gmail.com. Now, if I can actually get a better idea, make sure my sound is okay. Looks like I am. Let's get to. Hang on, guys. Let's get to. Oh, there we go. Now, our first segment has to do with chatting all the jazz. And basically, chatting all the jazz is basically about the trending topics each week that is picked, is going to be reviewed, is going to be discussed. So that's chatting all the jazz. Also, if you have any topic ideas that's needed to be discussed, you could also chime in. You could also DM me at gmoneystacks555 in Queens, New York on Instagram. Or you could go to the show's page, which I will go over at the end of the show. So don't worry about that. Okay. As far as the motorcycles and the fireworks and stuff, obviously it's the 4th of July. And happy 4th of July to everybody that's currently listening and to those that's new. So I don't forget to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. So let me just get started on the first topic here. Now I want to go over the attack in Chinatown. Of course, let me just read this. All right. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. I'm pretty sure you guys can. I'm not on mute this time, so just checking. Anyway, so according to the New York Post, an unhinged man randomly slugged an Asian woman in the face, knocking her to the ground, and in a brazen attack outside a Chinatown restaurant on Monday. Surveillance video posted on Twitter by Assemblywoman Ya La Nu, whose district covers Chinatown, captured the horrifying daytime assault on Bayer Street near Mott Street. Now, hold on a second. Yes, this is terrible news for people, especially for the Asian community that's dealing with all these hate crimes and stuff, which I really, really do feel bad. And as a human being, it's not about I'm not even gonna go into deep with that. So let me keep going. So the 55-year-old victim can be seen walking by the Kong Sink Tong Cafe around 6:15 p.m. A white man in an orange hoodie and denim jacket whacks her unprovoked. The woman falls backwards onto the pavement, and the attacker begins ranting as two people dining outside sit in stunned silence. The footage shows a man then rushes over to check on the victim, whose back was leaning up against a column of the eatery's outdoor dining setup. "Are you okay?" he asks. But the woman doesn't respond or move, according to the footage. Hang on a minute. Okay, the man attacking the woman in Chinatown on May 31st, 2021, which is this year. The injured woman on the ground after the vicious attack. She was brought to New York Presbyterian Lower Manhattan Hospital in stable condition, police said. News said the victim was unconscious and cognizant and alert. The woman looked shaken as cops later escorted her home with her daughter. "She's doing okay," the daughter told the Post through the door of her mom's apartment. The suspect was nabbed at the scene and taken to Blvd Hospital for a psychiatric evaluation, according to law enforcement sources. Charges against him were pending. End quote. Things are being investigated, and the hate crime task force has been called in, the Assemblywoman tweeted. A witness captured the aftermath of the brutal assault on video, including footage of the alleged attacker approaching him and of cops questioning the suspect, who could be heard telling them, in quote, "Someone hit me." Wait. Am I reading this right? Did this person say Wait, am I reading this right? So this person just flat out said, in quotes, someone hit me on purpose. Like, you got to be fucking shitting me. Anyways, in one of the clips posted on Instagram, and I have to give a buzz on this one. This is far the dumbest thing that I ever heard. You tell someone to just hit you out of the blue. I'm sorry. That makes you a fucking asshole for that one. So the suspect in the attack is apprehended by police. Can't believe I actually witnessed an attack on an Asian lady right in front of me at the heart of New York City, Chinatown, Jinzhen wrote on his Instagram story. When I saw the lady rolled over to the ground and went unconscious, I quickly hung up on my food order and start recording the situation for evidence. That's pretty decent. Zen said he flagged down cops standing outside the 5th precinct and led them in the direction of the suspect. He thanked restaurant workers for following the madman after the attack. Chu Chang, a 24-year-old waiter, said the eatery was busy when the woman was assaulted, but that he saw her sitting on the ground and covering her head. He called on the city to assign more cops to the area amid an uptick in crimes against New Yorkers of Asian descent. I feel nervous and scared, Cheng told the Post. Donald Ng, who works in the area, said Mayor de Blasio, needs to do something about this mental health issue. He just randomly attacked a woman, Ng, 44, said of the suspect. In quote, I wish I was there to apprehend the fucker. Okay. This is just all right, man. I don't want to waste too much time on this topic, so I'm gonna just go to the next one. So we have a white influencer that identifies as Korean after surgeries to look like BTS singer. So here's the story. According to the New York Post, a British-born white influencer has had 18 plastic surgeries. Wait. Am I reading this right? 18 plastic surgeries? Are you serious? Good God. And my question is, and this is where I bring in the word cultural appropriation, which I will discuss that in a second after I read this article. So here we go. So 18 plastic surgery procedures to look like a member of K-pop band BTS, and now identifies as Korean. So Ali London, who is the social media influencer, just like Lori Harvey, who uses they and them pronouns, which is so confusing, by the way, on Monday shared a series of videos from a hospital bed to show off the latest round of work in their bid to look like Park Jimin. Hey guys, I'm finally Korean. I transitioned, London said in one video, saying they were transracial, which I'm going to discuss the meaning after the cultural appropriation part. And now identify as Jimin. I identify as Korean. That's just my culture. That's my home country. That's exactly how I look now. The newly named Jimin said, "Oh gosh, I'm so happy. I've completed my look. I have the eyes, and I've just had a brow lift as well," said the influencer, who earlier tweeted about getting work on their lips to look like Jimin. Ali London told their followers, "Hey guys, I'm finally Korean. I've transitioned." Oh boy. Um. All right. All right. Let me just get my take on this whole thing. I heard of a person being trapped in the wrong body, but not in all the years of of living in New York that I ever heard of somebody saying that they are trapped in the wrong ethnicity, which is very, very surprising to me. And I kind of feel like that this is where the whole cultural appropriation thing that I've been hearing about for the past couple of days. So I'm gonna leave that cultural appropriation part for a discussion. So let me just keep going. All right. So I've been trapped in the wrong body, but finally I'm Korean. I can be myself and I'm so happy, Jimmy said. For the first time in my life, I feel beautiful. They said of the 18 surgeries that cost more than $150,000. I repeat, $150,000. Yeah, that's crazy, right? According to the Daily Star. I transitioned to a non binary person. They, them, Korean Jimin, the influencer said, showing off the new Ali Soul. I'm not even going to post that question. Ali was slammed for taking a whole ethnicity and treating it like a persona. And quote, "If you didn't know who I was, you just think I was a Korean person," Jimmy said, asking people to respect my decision after they've been bullied for my love of Jimin. Nobody would do this for attention. Nobody would go through this much pain, this much suffering, they said, of 18 surgeries in 8 years. "I hope I can be an inspiration to others," said Jimin, who conceded that it can be a little confusing for some people. "But anyone who has followed my journey for the last 8 years knows I've really struggled with identity issues with who I am," they said. While they got some support online, I'll bet some seemingly sarcastic, the announcement sparked plenty of outrage. Shit, I'll be, I'll be, I would be highly upset if someone that I knew was trying to do some type of cultural appropriation as far as like, copying somebody off of their culture but not asking. Yeah, I'll be upset too. Um all right. So while they got some support online, yeah, yeah, I got that part. This is actually unbelievably degrading to Koreans like me if he asserts that simply getting surgery to make his eyes more slanted makes him Korean. Kangmin Lee tweeted on Twitter. Ali London wanted the surgery so they could look like Jimin Center from BTS. Um, Korean isn't a pronoun, nor it is a persona you decide to suddenly take on because of K-pop's hype. Another Korean commentator said, "I can't commend you for taking a whole ethnicity and treating it like a persona. Others were especially angered when they reimagined the South Korean flag to include pride rainbow colors. Playing with a flag from another country, man, that is serious. Yes, indeed, it's serious. Every flag has a history about it and has the audacity to change it. One person tweeted, while others said it was actually a criminal offense in the country Jimmy now identifies with. See, I can't really support something like this. This whole idea that you're trapped in the wrong ethnicity, which is so unheard of, by the way. And this is where we learn about what cultural appropriation is and what it is about. So let's go to another topic, which is all right. So check this out. Cultural appropriation refers to the use of objects or elements of a non dominant culture in a way that doesn't respect their original meaning, give credit to their source, or reinforces stereotypes or contributes to oppression. Okay. In this way, cultural appropriation is layered and nuanced phenomenon that many people may have trouble understanding or may not realize when they are doing it themselves. It may be natural to merge and blend cultures as people from different backgrounds come together and interact. In fact, many wonderful inventions and creations have been born from the merging of such cultures, such as country music. However, the line is drawn when a dominant cultural group makes use of elements of non-dominant group in a way that the non-dominant group views as exploitative, to be exact. In this way, cultural appropriation can be most easily recognized by asking the question of the non-dominant group: does the use of this element of your culture in this way bother you? That's an interesting question. Defining cultural appropriation. Taking a step backward, how do you define cultural appropriation? Let's first consider what is meant by each other of the terms in the phrase, as well as some related terms that are important to understand. Culture refers to anything associated with a group of people based on their ethnicity, religion, geography, or social environment. This might include beliefs, traditions, language, objects, ideas, behaviors, customs, values, or institutions. Most often, culture is thought of as belonging to particular ethnic groups. Appropriation refers to taking something that doesn't belong to you, and most often refers to an exchange that happens when a dominant group takes or borrows something from a minority group that has historically been exploited or oppressed. In this case, in this sense, appropriation involves a lack of understanding of or appreciation for the historical context that influences the act of what is being taken. For example, taking a sacred object from a culture and producing it as part of a Halloween costume. Cultural denigration refers to when someone adopts an element of a culture with the sole purpose of humiliating or putting down people of that culture. Give me a second. Okay. The most obvious example of this is blackface. Yes, blackface is very obvious and very triggering to people, which I'm not going to get into too much of it, which originated as a way to put down people of color as having certain undesirable personality traits, cultural appropriation, and respect. So, cultural appropriation is the respectful borrowing of elements from another culture with an interest in sharing ideas and diversifying oneself. Examples would include learning martial arts from an instructor with an understanding of the practice from a cultural perspective, or eating Indian food at an authentic Indian restaurant. When done correctly, cultural appropriation can result in creative hybrids that blend cultures together. Context of cultural appropriation. Learning about the context of cultural appropriation is important for understanding why it is a problem. Sorry about the horn, folks. It's the cars outside, so I can't do nothing about that. So don't worry about that. Um, let's see. While you might not think twice about adopting a style from another culture, such as wearing your hair in cornrows, the non dominant group has historical experiences that make your actions insensitive to their past and current suffering. Although it is just one example of the history of racism in America that has been codified into law, means that there are still artifacts of racism that exist to this day. A person of color might be discriminated against because of a hairstyle that relates to their culture, while you, as part of the dominant group, can get away with appropriating that same hairstyle, making it trendy, and never understanding the experiences that contributed to the invention of the hairstyle in the first place. I totally agree with this. I totally agree with this, actually. Um, yeah, I totally agree with this. Just give me a sec. All right. In other words, you've jumped on a trend because it seems cool, but in doing so, you show insensitivity to the people for whom that trend is their life and not the latest fad. Hmm, that's an interesting logic right there. That's an interesting logic. Um, Examples of cultural appropriation. What are some examples of cultural appropriation? First, let's consider the types of items that tend to be the target of cultural appropriation: intellectual property, artifacts, dance, clothing and fashion, language, music, food, religious symbols, decorations, medicine, makeup, hairstyle, tattoos, and wellness practices. Okay. Now let's consider the groups that are typically targeted in terms of cultural appropriation in the United States. They include the following groups of people. You have African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Native Americans. Finally, what are some examples of cultural appropriation from popular culture? Below are some to consider. So here we go. Finally, okay, rock and roll. In the 1950s, white musicians invented rock and roll. However, the musical style was borrowed from black musicians who never received credit. Music executives chose to promote white promote. Sorry about the fireworks, folks. Can't do nothing about that. White performers over black performers, reinforcing the idea that cultural appropriation involves impacts on a non-dominant group. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right, here we go. Sweat Lodge. In 2011, motivational entrepreneur James Arthur Ray was convicted of 3 counts of negligent homicide after the death of 3 participants in the pseudo Sweat Lodge. This is an extreme example of cultural appropriation of Native American traditions. Okay. Voguing. Do you remember the voguing craze made popular by Madonna back in the 1990s? Of course we do. Voguing as a dance actually had its roots in the gay clubs of New York City, which I did not know, and was pioneered by the Black and Latinx communities. Madonna defends her right to artistic expression, but the question remains, how many people still think Madonna invented voguing? That's a good question. Listen, I'm not even I don't really have any thoughts on this, so let me just keep going. Okay. So we have team mascots. Major teams in the United States and Canada are involved in cultural appropriation because of the names of the teams. Interesting. I'm going to this is very interesting. Let's go to the past and the present team name examples include the Chicago Blackhawks, Cleveland Indians, Washington Redskins, and Edmonton Eskimos. Excuse me. Okay. The Redskins and Eskimos are both undergoing a name change as of the time of this writing. Redskin is a derogatory term for indigenous people. Oh my gosh. I hate that word indigenous so much, man. Yo, people got us. I don't know, man. I swear, man. Like the word indigenous to me sounds so ugly. And to be quite honest with you, like I don't really look. You know what? I don't really care about this, man. I really don't. Anyway, people in the term Eskimo has been rejected by the Inuit community. Once again, if you aren't sure if something is cultural appropriation, you need to look no further than the reaction of the group from whom the cultural element was taken. Okay, good point right here. Okay. How to know if something is cultural appropriation? Are you unsure how to decide if something is cultural appropriation? Here are some questions to ask yourself in this situation. What is your goal with you? What is your goal with what you are doing? Are you following a trend or exploiting the history of a culture? Are you deliberately trying to insult someone's culture or being respectful? Are you purchasing something that is a reproduction of a culture or an original? How would people from the culture you are borrowing an item from feeling about what you are doing? Are there any stereotypes involved in what you're doing? Shall I go on? Are you using a sacred item in a flippant or fun way? Are you borrowing something from an ancient culture and pretending that it is new? Are you crediting the source or inspiration of what you are doing? If a person of the original culture were to do what you're doing, would they be viewed as cool or could they possibly face discrimination? Hang on a second. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Are you crediting the source or inspiration of what you're doing? If a person of the original culture were to do what you are doing, would would they be viewed as cool or could they possibly face discrimination? Are you wearing a costume that represents a culture? Are you ignoring the cultural significance of something in favor of following a trend? Explore these questions and always aim to show sensitivity when adopting elements from another culture. If you do realize that something you have done is wrong, it's okay to accept that as a mistake and then work to change it and or apologize for it. um how to avoid cultural appropriation. How do you avoid cultural appropriation? Below are some tips to take. Excuse me. Ask yourself the list of questions above to begin to explore the underlying motivation for what you are doing. Give credit or recognize the origin of items that you borrow or promote from other cultures rather than claiming them to be your own original ideas. Take the time to learn about the and truly appreciate a culture before you borrow or adapt elements of that culture. Learn from those who are members of the culture. Visit venues run by actual members of a culture, such as restaurants, and attend authentic elements such as going to a real Lao. Sorry about my stomach, folks. I can't really control that. Man. Um, Support small businesses run by original members of a culture rather than buying mass produced items from big box stores that are made to represent a culture. A word from very well. Cultural appropriation is the social equivalent of plagiarism with an added dose of denigration. It's something to be avoided at all costs and something to educate yourself about. In addition to watching your own actions, it's important to be mindful of the actions of corporations and be choosy about how you spend your dollars, as that is another way of supporting members of the non dominant culture. Do what you can when you can, as you learn to do better. Okay, I think I agree with all these questions and points. So, these are some key facts on how to avoid cultural appropriation. Here we go. All right. Now I did go to the whole thing with what is it? Real meaning of let me just go to okay. So the real meaning of transracial. Um, the revelation that Rachel Dolezal, now former head of Spokane, Washington's NAACP chapter, is white but identifies as black has prompted social media and cable news blitz as the country tries to make sense of a person who has artificially constructed her racial identity. Um, Many have doubt. Excuse me. Many have dubbed her as a transracial, while others have decried that transracial is not actually a thing. Caught in the crossfire is a group that actually does identify as transracial, but whose identities and experiences in no way relate to those fabrications. Oh boy. um, the revelation that okay, um, the word transracial has appeared over the past week thanks to conflations between Dozo's story and the gender transition of Caitlyn Jenner. Oh gosh. Fox News resident anti-LGBT psychiatrist Keith Abloh, for example, insisted that the two are directly connected, going so far as to suggest, in quote, it doesn't have to just be race or gender that people assert and then change by tattooing or surgery. Adding age and species to the list of things that he believes people will claim as a trans identity. Representative Tim Huelskamp, one of the most anti-LGBT lawmakers in Congress, joked on Twitter, in quote, "Twisted world, transgender and transracial are in, and trans fats are out. Hashtag Jenner, hashtag Dolezal." And even though psychologists have been trying to explain that there is no comparison to be made between the two, it hasn't stopped countless conservatives outlets from continuing the conflation. All right. Um Dolezal seemed to accept the comparison between her and Jenner's stories during her interview with NBC News, saying that she resonated with some of the themes of isolation, of being misunderstood. But there is no comparison to be made between the actual identities. There is significant evidence that there is a biological origin of transgender identities and that transgender identities are wholly authentic. While conservatives estimate place the murder of transgender people in the country at 700,000, there doesn't seem to be anybody quite Dozo who whose deception to herself and others seems entirely manufactured. In other words, the nature and language of gender identities does not translate into conversations around race. There is no such thing as transracial in terms of a person who identifies as a race other than what was assigned at birth. But transracial does mean something else, and and the people who identify with that word, adoptees raised in a family of different race, are speaking out. Okay, before I continue reading this whole debacle story, look, when I heard the first time I heard this story about Rachel Dolezal, who is white, who tries to um identify as black. This was from an episode years ago when I was listening to the Brilliant Idiots podcast. And why the my issue with this is like it's like why in the hell what even possessed her to even think that you could go from being white, which you was born with, to trying to to be to be something that she's not. like when did this whole being trapped in the wrong ethnicity even come about? I'll wait. Look, man, I kind of understand why a lot of people are upset about this, and this is just flat out wrong at so many levels. And I completely understand that because you got to really think about it though, man. Like you borrowing, like it's not even so much about an item that you're basically borrowing. You're borrowing from a culture, a particular cultures that you never even experienced. There's the reason why people are upset because there's history behind these cultures. And Rachel Dolezal is like a bad example to other people. And I hate to say this, and yeah, she was on TMZ Live recently. I did see her crazy ass. So, um, let me just uh, let me just give her a buzz on this one. Um, I'm sorry, man, but I just find it very just crazy to me. Um, let me let me do this. All right. Now that I got my thoughts out the way about Rachel Dolezal and the wrongdoing that she's doing with trying to identify as something that she's not, something that she wasn't even born with. So let's take it a step further. So Dolezal seemed to accept the comparison between her and the Jenner stories during an interview with a NBC News, saying that she resonated with some of the themes of isolation, blah blah blah. Anyway, the transracial response started with a post by Lisa Marie Rawlins at the adoption blog Lost Daughters. In quote, for the past 35-ish years, she wrote, I've considered myself to be transracial adoptee. The trans and transracial for me never meant my race changed. It meant I was a multiracial black girl adopted into a white family. She proceeded to explain the challenges of having a race that did not match her family or cultural surroundings, having to navigate my blackness and my black girlness to be exact, inside an oftentimes racist, religious, violent, and rigid white world. End quote. But growing up in that white world, end quote, never actually changed my race. Having all of the privileges of whiteness never made me white. Rollins pointed out that families of transracial adoptees can often significantly impacted by having people of another race in their homes. But neither does this experience change the race of these siblings or parents. At best, it can equip them to be a different kind of white person, one who can operate as an ally to people of color in a real, thoughtful way. End quote. But Dozo Rollins bemoaned is a white woman who made choices, who used it, and is still using every bit of her white privilege to maintain the power and elite status she has accrued from her deception. Rollins' response added fuel to conversations already happening through social media among adoptees, activists, scholars, writers, performers, and their allies. This group of transracial adoptees and their allies have now issued an open letter entitled Why co-opting transracial in the case of Rachel Dolezal is problematic. It is problematic. You think? End quote. We have the misuse of transracial describing the phenomenon of a white woman pursuing perceived markers of blackness in order to pass as black, to be erroneous, ahistorical, and dangerous. End quote. The letter states. End quote. Damaging forces like racism, making it virtually impossible for those with black or brown bodies to simply put on or take off race in the same or similar manner that Dozo has employed. For transracial adoptees, navigating and negotiating the racism in our families, schools, and communities is a regular and compulsory part of our lives. Oh boy. This is one of those heavy subjects, so bear with me. Kimberly McKee, an assistant professor at Grand Valley State University and assistant director of the Korean American Adoptive Family Network, helped organize the letter. She told Think Progress, end quote, I hope that we recognize that the term transracial describes a specific type of adoption experience. At the same time, I encourage us to use this as an opportunity to ask ourselves, why are we not hearing more about the experiences of Black women in the U.S. and hashtag say her name? If the term is co-opted to describe those, though, it erases the lived experiences and realities of transracially adopted individuals. Oh my goodness. KAAN works to provide adoptees and their families and allies with a multitude of resources, including adoption studies, birth family search and reunion tools, mental health support, history and culture lessons, and various ways to promote mental health and well-being in the face of racial microaggressions, which I did touch on in the mental health check-in segment 2 months ago. Quote, we should actively encourage adoptees' exploration of their racial, ethnic, cultural origins and support them throughout this process, McKee explained, but we should not encourage cultural appropriation in adoption or in society at large. For one of the open letters signers, the conflation of transgender identities with a misappropriated transracial label is particularly problematic. Andy Mara identifies as both transgender and a transracial adoptee, having been adopted from Korea by a white family. A few years ago, she shared the powerful story of reuniting with her Korean birth mother and coming out to her as transgender in a poignant essay called The Beautiful Daughter, How My Korean Mother Gave Me the Courage to Transition. Mara told Think Progress that for her, this conversation is about authenticity. And quote, I am open, honest, and proud to claim the various traits and experiences that made me who I am today. And there's a lot to me too. I am Korean American, a transracial and transnational adoptee, a transgender woman, and a person of color. Okay. She doesn't see that same kind of authenticity in Dozo's story. Who I am today hasn't been actively determined by disingenuous actions. I don't have to lie or pretend about who I am. There is no deliberate effort to conceal my background, and I am not following a script or abiding to a rule book or what it means for me to be authentic. End quote. Mara laments the fact that race and gender have both been defined as social constructs, but that there has been little progress made to address the tangible distinctions between the two that manifest in our day to day lives. It is those distinctions that make transgender identities a poor framing for making sense of who Dozo says she is. In quote, co-opting the term transracial to describe Dozo's behavior. The open letter concludes exposing the deep denial and erasure of decades of research, writing, and art of transracial adoptees. That's why we need everyone to stop trying to make this new definition of transracial happen. It's not and should not be a thing. Okay. All right. Let's go to another thing that I've been hearing about, and I wanted to learn about this whole non-binary thing since we previously talked about this in an episode, but I didn't go into deep with it. So let's get into this. So, um, so the headline of this article is entailed with a question, and it goes like this: what does it mean to identify as non-binary? What is non-binary? The term non-binary can mean different things to different people. At its core, it's used to describe someone whose gender identity isn't exclusively male or female. Wow. If someone tells you they're non-binary, it's always important to ask what being non-binary means to them. Some people who are non-binary experience their gender as both male and female, and others experience their gender as neither male nor female. All right, this is mad confusing, so I'm not even going to get into all this. So let me just keep reading. Non-binary can also be used as an umbrella term encompassing many gender identities that don't fit into the male-female binary. Although non-binary is often regarded as a new idea, the identifier has been around for as long as civilization has. In fact, non-binary gender has been recorded as far back as 400 BC to 200 AD when Harris people in India who identified as beyond male or female were referenced in ancient Hindu text. India is one of many countries around the world with language and a social culture that acknowledges those whose gender can't be exclusively categorized as male or female. Do you have to be transgender to identify as non-binary? Now, before I even continue reading, the reason why I wanted to actually bring up the word non-binary is because I want to be able to learn about this. So whenever I come across some, because when I was in college, I never experienced meeting someone who is non-binary, which is very very new to me actually, and I'm actually all here to actually learn about this. So if that happens, then I'll figure out what that person's experiences is. So, you know, that's just to show that I'm not an asshole and stuff. So we'll just leave it as that. So here we go. Non-binary gender has to do with who someone knows themselves to be. Some non binary people identify as transgender while others do not. This makes sound confusing, but when laid out, it's actually very simple. A trans non binary person is someone who doesn't identify with the sex that was assigned at birth and also has a gender identity that can't be categorized as exclusively male or female. A non binary person who doesn't identify as trans may partially identify with the sex assigned at birth, as well as have a gender identity be categorized that can't be categorized as strictly male or female. Understanding gender as a spectrum. The idea that gender is a spectrum is grounded in two widely accepted beliefs: historical precedents and basic biology. From Harris in India, the Manus in Hawaii, there have always been people whose gender doesn't fit into the stereotype of what it means to be a man or a woman. These examples of non binary and non conforming gender throughout world history have laid an important groundwork for how we understand gender identity today. Gosh. What's more, sex isn't always binary, even on a biological level. One in every 2,000 people are born with an intersex condition. Intersex is used to describe people who have chromosomes, anatomy, or other sex characteristics that can't be categorized as exclusively male or female. Um, so, all right, let me, all right, yeah, wait, what is more, okay, okay. The notion that both sex and gender are binary, with everyone fitting into either a male or female box, is a social construct. This system has historically been used to differentiate between biological and gender related traits in males and females. Hmm. The idea that there's male and female isn't false, it's just incomplete. Many people intersex or not have a mix of biological traits or gender expressions that falls outside of the male or female chat box. So is gender identity rooted in nature, nurture, or a combination of the two? Although more research is needed, growing data suggests that there's some biological component to gender identity, just not in the way that you might think. For example, attempts to align the gender identity of a person who is intersex with their external genitalia are typically unsuccessful. Um, this suggests that the sexual characteristics you are born with may not always align with your gender identity. So, non binary gender identities. There are a number of gender identities that fall under the non binary umbrella. This includes identifiers like gender queer, agender, gender fluid, androgynous, boy, bigender, multigender. Demigender is another umbrella term for non binary identities. In many cases, um, demigender is used when someone feels a partial connection to a certain gender. For example, demigirl, demiboy, and demifluid. Although there are definitions available for each of these terms, many overlap or have nuanced differences. The meaning can also vary greatly across cultures and geographic regions. That's why it's imperative to ask the person using the identifier about what it means to them. Um, is non binary the same as genderqueer? So, the word queer was originally introduced to challenge fixed notions of sexuality and include people who are attracted to more than just one type of person. The term signifies an inclusive attractive to those who gender can't be exclusively categorized as male or female. Placing gender in front of the word queer conveys the idea that those who are gender queer have multiple gender identities and expressions. This is also known as fluid gender identity or expression. Although the terms genderqueer and non-binary have similarities, they are necessarily interchangeable. It's always important to defer to a person's preferred identifier. Okay, non-binary pronouns. We live in a world where um, nearly everywhere a person goes, they are gendered. It's all too common for groups of people to be referred to as ladies and gentlemen or guys and gals when the person speaking has no real knowledge about the gender identities of those they are referring to. For those non binary people, pronouns are about more than just how they want to be addressed. They become a powerful way to assert an aspect of their gender that's often unseen and aligned with others' assumptions. Because of this, pronouns have the power to either affirm or invalidate a non binary person's existence. Some non binary people are binary pronouns such as she, her, hers, he, him, his. Others use gender neutral pronouns such as they, them, theirs, z, her, hers, z, zer, zers. Although these are the most common gender neutral pronouns, there are others. The pronouns someone uses can also change over the time and across environments. For example, some non binary people use gender neutral pronouns only in spaces where they feel safe. They may allow people at work or school to refer to them using traditional binary pronouns instead of their preferred pronouns. Oh boy. So the takeaway is you should always use pronouns a person tells you you are appropriate to use for them. If you are unsure or have no information about how someone wants to be addressed, opt for gender neutral language. How to start using gender neutral language. Incorporating gender neutral language into everyday conversation is an easy way to challenge gender stereotypes and be inclusive of those who don't want to be addressed using gender words or pronouns. Okay. Um all right. Let's when an incorrect pronoun or gendered word is used to refer let me hold on a second, man. Um okay, when an incorrect pronoun or gendered word is used to refer to someone, it's called misgendering. We all make mistakes, and misgendering a person at some point in time will likely be one of them. Um, when this happens, it's important that you apologize and make an effort to use the appropriate language moving forward. Using gender neutral language is one way to avoid misgendering completely. However, it's important to affirm an individual by using the words they use to describe themselves. When meeting someone for the first time, ask how they like to be referred to or what pronouns they use. If you are addressing a group or are unsure of someone's pronouns, opt for gender neutral language such as they or people. My goodness. Okay, gender neutral terms. Instead of boys, girls, man, woman, and men, women, use person, people, or humans. Instead of ladies and gentlemen, use folks. Instead of daughter or son, use child. Instead of sister and brother, use sibling. Instead of niece and nephew, use nibbling. Not sure what that means, but whatever. Instead of mother and father, use parent. Instead of husband and wife, use partner or spouse. Instead of mother, grandmother, or grandfather, use grandparent. Okay. The bottom line, by acknowledging and affirming non-binary gender identities, we create space for the gender diversity that truly exists to emerge. We each have to have a role to play in ensuring that environment is safe and supportive. These resources offer tips on where to start. This first person essay explains what it can be like to discover you are non-binary. This guides cover non-binary gender identities in depth, touching on individual experiences, mental health, and more. Give me a second, guys. All right. Okay. This guide covers non binary identities in depth, touching on individual experiences, mental health, and more. This piece from Teen Vogue digs into gender variance throughout world history. They also have a great breakdown on how to use gender neutral pronouns. This video from BBC Three clarifies that what you should and shouldn't say to someone who identifies as non binary. And this video from Gender Spectrum is geared towards parents of children who are non binary, touching on what to expect and things to consider. Okay. I think I had enough of this. So let's go to the next topic, shall we? So the next topic has to do with, let's get into this. So according to the Guardian, let me get this out of here. According to the Guardian, all right. So story goes like this. A California teen who shoved a bear to protect her dog spoke out on Wednesday about the split-second decision to save her pets. I was just shaking so much I didn't know I had that time in me. I still couldn't believe that I pushed a bear, Haley Morinico said in a television interview. Morinico, 17, spoke about the confrontation with the bear outside her house in Bradbury, east of Los Angeles. A video clip showed her leap into action when she saw her three dogs barking and leaping up at a mother bear bouncing on the fence with two cubs. Morinico ran towards the commotion and pushed the bear off the fence. Then she grabbed one of the dogs and ran into the house, following the other dogs as they fled for safety. those few moments I had, that's what really let me run away with my dogs and my life, she's told CNN. The teen says she was not thinking until she got up close to the bear. Um, so she said, in quote, I had about 2 seconds to think. And the first thing that popped into my head was to push the bear off the ledge, she said, in quote. Before she came to the rescue, the mother began swatting at the dogs and even grabbed the youngest one off the ground briefly. This dog, Valentina, was in danger. Really, she was so important to the family, Nico said. She's my mother's emotional support animal, and I couldn't bear to let anything happen to her because I know, like, the pain would have been too much for my mom to handle. I think that I did this for her. Um, she escaped with a sprained finger and a scraped knee. I didn't feel the pain until afterwards. Like all the madness and the adrenaline, it didn't make me feel anything really, she said. The encounter um, was caught on a security camera outside of Nico's house. It's just so crazy to have that on camera because it's such an amazing story to tell, she said. Hmm. Let's give a round of applause for the 17-year-old teen who saved her dogs from a bear. Shall we? Now, our next topic is our next topic has to do with a baseball player. So here we go. So this baseball player was arrested in a domestic violence charge. You got to be kidding. So, an outfielder of the Atlanta Braves organization, who goes by the name of Marcell Ozuna, faces 2 charges, including strangulation. His team says it will cooperate with MLB investigation. Marcell Ozuna, an outfielder for the Atlanta Braves, was arrested Saturday on charges um, of aggravated assault strangulation and misdemeanor family violence after officers witnessed him attack his wife, according to jail records and the police. Ozuna 30 was booked by the Sandy Springs Police Department, according to Fulton County in Georgia jail's records. Sandy Springs is a northern suburb of Atlanta. In a statement released late Saturday night, the Sandy Springs Police Department said they received a 911 call around 12:30 p.m. regarding an ongoing assault at home in the city. The department said its officers heard screaming and saw the front door open when they arrived. Inside, according to the statement, officers saw Ozuna grabbing the victim, who they identified as his wife, by the neck and throwing her against the wall. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. Wrong button. Yeah. Yeah, that's a no-no right there for me. That's a no-no right there. Um, Guys, hold that thought. I'll be right back. I need to use the bathroom. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Hold on. Okay, guys, I'm back. All right. Sorry about that, folks. I had to use the bathroom a bit. All right, here we go. Where was I? Okay. So, Azuna 30 was booked by Sandy Springs Police Department, according to Fulton County. Yeah, I just read that part. In a statement released late Saturday night, the Sandy Springs Police Department said they received a 911 call around 12:30 p.m. regarding an ongoing assault at home in the city. It's fireworks, everybody, so don't worry about that. Um, Regarding an ongoing assault at home in the city. The department said its officers heard screaming and saw the front door open when they arrived. Inside, according to the statement, officers saw Azuna grabbing the victim, who they identified as his wife, by the neck and throwing her against the wall. Officers arrested Azuna without further incident. The statement said the statement also noted that Azuna has struck his wife with a cast on his arm. The victim, police said, was injured but not mistaken to a hospital. Excuse me, not taken to a hospital to be exact. Major League Baseball, MLB, will also investigate the matter. In quote, we learned of Marcell Ozuna's arrest earlier this evening and immediately informed the commissioner's office, the Braves said in a statement on Saturday night. The Braves fully support Major League Baseball's policy on domestic violence, which stresses to the fullest that our society cannot and will not tolerate domestic violence in any form. Until the investigation is completed, we will have no further comment, and all inquiries into the matter should be referred to the office of the commissioner. Since MLB and the Players Union enacted a domestic violence policy in 2015, 13 players to be exact, have been suspended with bans ranging from 15 to 162 games following investigations. Hold on, how much time do I have? Okay. Yeah, I'm about to speed this up. Anyway, Ozuna, a two-time All-Star who led the National League in home runs last season, was placed on the injured list on Friday after he injured two fingers on his left hand sliding into a base. He was expected to miss several weeks. The Braves were in New York playing the Mets this weekend. After hitting an average of 338 with 18 home runs in 60 games for Atlanta last season, Ozuna finished sixth in voting for the National League Most Valuable Player award and re-signed for 4 more years and $65 million over the winter. This season, he was hitting an average of 213 with 7 home runs in 48 games. A year ago, Ozuna's wife, Genesis, was arrested on a domestic violence charge in Miami. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. And you want to know what's crazy? The whole thing with cancel culture when Cat Williams talked about in an interview. So let's get to this. According to Yahoo.com news, so basically he has a message about cancel culture, and this goes like this. At the end of the day, there's no cancel culture, Williams said in a viral interview clip. Cat Williams is speaking about cancel culture in the comedy world. At the end of the day, there's no cancel culture. Cancellations doesn't have its own culture, Williams said in a viral interview reposted on Twitter. He's spoken out multiple times on various platforms, sharing his perspective on comedians evolving with the times. During an interview on Higher Learning with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay, which is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to so far, the host asked Williams about the current state of comedy in regards to cancel culture and the people feeling like they can't be their true selves on stage. Most people that are complaining about not having anything to say didn't have anything to say in those years when they could said whatever they wanted to. They didn't make it there either, Williams responded. So he said in quote, "I don't want to call somebody something that I shouldn't call them when if I would have known that, I would have found something else to call them," Williams told the host. Nobody likes the speed limit, but it's there for a reason. That's a good analogy right there. A clip on Twitter of Williams sharing his perspective reached over than 1 million views in less than 24 hours. And he said added in quote, "It's done for the reasons it's done for, and it helped who helped it," Williams said in an interview clip. End quote. If all that's going to happen is we have to be more sensitive in the way that we talk, isn't that what we would want anyway? In the video clip, he went on to encourage comedians to be mindful of the words they use. He said, in quote, "Don't call somebody this word when you know this affects all of these people. Don't use the R word when you really mean people on the spectrum. Don't say this word instead of saying autistic. Don't say this word instead of saying little people," Williams said. If these are the confines that keep you from doing the craft that God put you to, then it probably ain't for you. Of course, folks have been weighing in on the conversation. And quote, basically said my exact answer. "It's not real, but if it was, why does purposefully undermining groups of people for shock value you make or break your comedy quality? Like you weren't that funny to begin with if that was the case," a Twitter user handle AACP Young Boy wrote. I like it. The people who whine about, "Oh, you can't say anything anymore," shouldn't be in a comedy if that can't put more consideration into other marginalized people's feelings. It's called not being a jerk or a bigot and apologizing when you messed up. Twitter user rage_bloomer tweeted, Exactamente. For the first time ever, everyone, not just POC, are being held accountable for what they say. Feel free to speak your mind, but be prepared to be held accountable. Twitter user um, Dana Cortez posted. While some people don't agree with cancel culture or consider it real, dictionaries have adopted definitions of the term over the years. As defined by dictionary.com, cancel culture is the popular practice of withdrawing support for canceling public figures and companies after they done or said something considered objectionable or offensive. Cancel culture is generally discussed as being performed on social media in the form of group shaming. Now, before I even go to the next segment, which is Black owned trendsetter shoutouts, I want to say something about the whole cancel culture thing. I previously spoke about this in episode 15, which is called Canceled Culture Avenue. And I feel like this whole shit is gone too far. It's like you're trying to ruin people's lives by being the judge and jury of what they supposed to do, what they not supposed to do, and what they can or can't do. Like the purpose of comedy to me is to not only get laughs, but to also get away from you know politics. When I look at comedy, comedy is like therapy. It's therapeutic to people, and there's an art behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like my thing is like this though. Like don't try to ridicule somebody because you act like you never made a single mistake in your life. Like come on, man. Let's be serious right here. Like honestly, you can't tell me that you never made a single mistake in your life. Like come on, let's be serious, man. This is just wild to me. It's wild. Yeah, this is very wild to me, man. And I don't know who the hell texted me, but let me just whatever it is. Let me hang on a minute, man. I don't know what it says, but I'll get to it after I'm done with that, and then I'll do depending on how much energy I have. So I will try to do episode 47 before this day is over. So now, now we can actually go to a segment that I've been waiting to do. Hang on a minute here. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's going on here. This is crazy. Um. Okay, hang on, guys. Um. So before we even wrap up the show, I'd like to get to this one segment, which is called. Let me get this straight. Let me let me get this straight. Sorry, this wasn't supposed to. Now the the segment that I'm going to do is what you call Black owned shout out trendsetters. In this segment of Black owned shout out trendsetters, This is basically about Ice Cube, and I picked Ice Cube because of the Big Three League tournament. So, we're gonna learn about this today. All right. So here we go. So, Big Three is a 3-on-3 basketball league funded by hip hop musician and actor Ice Cube and entertainment executive Mr. Jeff Kawaniatz. The league consists of 12 teams whose roster includes both former NBA players and international players. The rules enforced in Big Three games contain major deviations from the official rules of 3-on-3 basketball as administered by FIBA. In January 2020, Big Three announced its rule set would be the core of a new basketball variant called Fireball 3. Now, the history behind it is what we're going to really learn. Is on January 11th, Ice Cube and Jeff Kawaniatz announced their new 3-on-3 basketball league at the Sheraton Times Square Hotel in New York City. Roger Mason Jr. was the first president and commissioner. Ron Colbert was named supervisor of officials. The Big Three held its first draft on April 30th, and the inaugural week, to be exact, of games took place June 25th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. On August 26, 2017, Trilogy defeated the Three-Headed Monsters 51-46 in the inaugural Big Three championship game, completing a perfect 10-0 season. The league's most valuable player award was won by Three-Headed Monsters forward Rashard Lewis. Trilogy's undefeated season led to several awards for members of the team, including Defensive Player of the Year James White and Coach of the Year Rick Mahone. On March 15, 2018, Clyde Drexler became the second commissioner, replacing Roger Mason. On April 3rd, the Big Three and Adidas agreed to a 3-year partnership in which Adidas would launch a full retail line of sneakers, clothing, and equipment to launch in 2019. In conjunction with Adidas, the Big Three launched Young Three, a youth initiative of underprivileged young kids that was held in each city with Boys and Girls Club of America. Interesting. At the conclusion of 2018 regular season, the Power and Three-Headed Monsters were both tied for the league's best record, 7-1. The Power would advance to the championship game, while the Three-Headed Monsters were ultimately eliminated by Three's Company in the semifinals. August 24th, 2018. The Power defeated Three's Company 51-43 to become the league's second champions. Power's Corey McGee was awarded MVP and Captain of the Year, while Power's Nancy Lieberman was awarded Coach of the Year. On January 11th, 2019, the Big Three announced that they would expand to 12 teams for the upcoming season and move to 2 nights consisting of 3 games each week. The league will also play in 18 cities and allow players as young as 27 to compete in the league. Um, on January 15, 2020, Big Three made several major announcements furthering lower its age limit to 22, instituting um, open trials for league players, introducing some additional rule changes, and starting use of Fireball 3 to describe its rule set. The competition would not be held in 2020 as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. I call it a slamdemic. So anyway, to ensure that the league would have a 2021 season, the league took a 1.6 million paycheck protection program loan during the pandemic, returning $700,000. Rules goes like this. The rules of 503. The basketball variant played by Big Three differed considerably from FIBA sanctioned 3-on-3 games. They are as follows. Like FIBA sanctioned 3-on-3 games are played on a half court. The official FIBA 3-on-3 court is actually shorter than half of a full FIBA court, but FIBA rules allow half of a regulation FIBA court to be used. Standard 2 and 3 point shots apply. The 3 point line is the same distance as in the NBA. Unique to Fireball 3 are 3 4-point zones on a circle 30 feet away from the basket. One is on the midline of the court. The other two are 40 degrees away from the midline. To score 4 points, a player's foot must be touching any part of a circle. Neither Fireball 3 nor 3-on-3 use a jump ball to start the game, but nonetheless differ significantly in start procedures. In Fireball 3, the two teams participate in a pregame do or die 4-point shootout. The shootout winner becomes the designated home team and will inbound first. In 3-on-3, the first possession is determined by a pregame coin toss, with the winner choosing whether to take possession at the start of a game or the start of a potential overtime. The shot clock runs 14 seconds as opposed to 12 seconds in 3-on-3. In addition, free throw is taken if a player is fouled making a shot. A shooting foul awards one free throw worth the same number of points as the foul shot. 2-point shots are taken from the free throw line, 3-point shots from the 3-point line, 4-point shots from the mid-line 4-point circle. The free throw is awarded whether or not the fouled shot hits the baskets. 3-on-3 follows standard FIBA rules for free throws after shooting fouls, with the exception of bonus situations. Normally, if the basket attempt was made, one free throw is awarded, and if the basket attempt was missed, a number of free throws equal to the value of the shot attempt is awarded. Additionally, all free throws in 3-on-3 are worth 1 point, as they are in standard full court basketball. Similar to 3-on-3, fouls are ascribed to the team. Players cannot foul out. However, the bonus free throw rules differ between the two rules sets. In Fireball 3, after the 15 foul in each half. Opponents are guaranteed to 1 free point throws and possessions of the ball. Okay, I'm not gonna read all this, so you guys are more welcome to actually, look this up yourselves. So, you know what? That's gonna do it for episode 46. All right. If you like what you heard in today, as far as the topics of what we talked about and stuff, all you gotta do is show some love by making a generous donation to the PayPal, which is paypal.me/gmoneystacks, Queens, New York. And also my PayPal is $GMoneyStacks555. Now, not asking you to break the bank. What we're saying is to do your best on what you can afford. All right. Let me go over the social media handles first, man. First and foremost, if you want to know about the show, all you gotta do is to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram, which is Off the Meatrack Chainz podcast on Facebook and Instagram with the same name. And also, before I mention my social media handles and stuff, I would like to actually add in another social media handle, which is Twitch. So you can also follow me on twitch.tv/gmoneystacks555 Queens, New York. That's gmoneystacks555 Queens, New York. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. And I already did 2 episodes of my other podcast, which is Meticulous Vibe Juice Podcast, which is another show that I'm doing right now. Also, you can also follow the second podcast, which is Meticulous Vibe Juice Podcast, on Instagram, as well as Off the Meatrack Chainz NY Podcast, and along with my handle, which is gmoneystacks555 in Queens, New York. So, without further ado, I would like to go over the streaming platforms on the go where you can listen to the podcast. So just give me a second here. Just give me a second here. All right, hang on, guys. I'm trying to. Okay, let's go to where it says thank you. All right. Okay, here we are. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Here we go. Yes, here we go. Now, streaming platforms on the go. Now, you can listen to Off the Meatrack Chainz New York podcast on Podorama. We're on Anchor. We're on Spotify. We're on Audio Burst. We're on Deezer. We're on TuneIn, plus Alexa, Player FM, Podchaser. Be sure to go to the Podchaser link so you can give a 5-star rating and some comments on what you like about it, what you don't like about it, as far as the topics and stuff. So we're on Stitcher. We're on Pocket Cast. We're on Podcast Addict. We're on Breaker, Listen Notes. And don't forget to listen to Off the Meatrack Chainz New York podcast on Podbay, Podfriend, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and last but not least, the YouTube. I need y'all to do y'all part to go subscribe to the YouTube channel, gmoneystacks555. Be sure to enable alerts on when the show goes on the air live, upcoming live stream episodes, previous episodes. And don't forget to download your favorite episodes that you like. And if you missed any previous episodes whatsoever, like 1 through 45, be sure to do some catching up. Um, it's on every streaming platform that you could think of. So, um, and don't forget to tell a friend to tell a friend. Don't forget to share the podcast with audio streaming platforms with your friends. So, with that being said, I would like to say thank you for staying here with me, listening along with the new listeners and current listeners. I thank you for sticking around, even though I'm a one hit one host that's actually holding it down so far, and I'm almost about to reach 50 episodes so far. So just stick around for more topics and everything. I'm G Money Stacks, and you have been listening to episode 46 of Joyride Boulevard, which is oh, there's another story I forgot to mention. I'm sorry. Um I forgot that one story. I'm sorry. Um oh, okay. I forgot that one story. Here we go. Wild car crash ends up in a homeowner's bedroom in Missouri. Um the quiet of night at a Eureka, Missouri home quickly turned to chaos and confusion when a car crashed through the roof of a home Sunday morning, landing just a few feet away from where the homeowners were sleeping. Um, at around 1:30 a.m., two teenage boys were on their way home from a graduation party when they lost control of the car and catapulted into a roof of the home, according to Fox affiliate TV station. Thankfully, no one in the car or home was injured in the crash. Okay. They were truly lucky, said Eureka Fire Department Deputy Chief William Stamberger. In fact, it's an extreme success story that everybody survived this with the potential it could have been. There could have been a potential for a great amount of disaster, if you will. Um, and yeah, and that's why I called the Joyride Boulevard because of these teams. So, as I said before, thank you for tuning in, listening, rocking with me. I know it's been long overdue, over an hour. So I have to prep for the next episode. So thank you so much for listening, tuning in, and watching. I want you guys to have a great 4th of July and enjoy yourself. Stay masked up. And also reach out to people that you care about. You don't have to wait every year for mental health check-ins, awareness month every year to reach out to see how they're doing mentally. It's not about what's going on the outside, it's about what's going on the inside. It's just to show that you really care about a person. It's not so much about because there's no right time into reaching out to people. You just do it at any time that you're comfortable with. And like I always say at the end of the show, if you have a dream of creating a show of a podcast like myself, along with any other podcasters, whether you are in different career fields, whether it's radio personality, podcast host like I am, along with any other career fields whatsoever, please don't let anybody stop you, especially online flizzies who are the clown burgers of all time. So, what do you do when it comes to clown burgers that are the online flizzies, you ask? You eat them up like this. Yeah, and I'm G Money Stacks. I'm about to clock out right now. Yo, have a good night. Enjoy the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, everybody. And be careful out there and be safe. Peace and one love and good night.